The Institute of Public Affairs, which is another think tank, has done a survey. They surveyed people. 77% of Australians believe that burning the Australian flag should be against the law. Our next guest, Deputy Executive Director of the Institute of Public Affairs, Daniel Wild. Good morning.
Morning, Tom.
Well, I mean, leaving aside what you might think personally, this is a higher percentage than I would have thought.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised by this. We've asked surveys in the past about, are Australians proud of our country and our flag? And they always came back at about 3/4 supporting it. But to ask it in the other way, which is, do you want to criminalise the burning of the flag? I thought it would be about 50-50. So I was surprised by this. And, what this shows is there is a lot of anger and resentment in the community and a lot of concern as to what's happening in our country, especially here in Melbourne, where, pretty much every other day there's a protest going on and, there'll be all kinds of flags being waved, but the one flag you won't see is the Australian flag. And if you do see it, it's inevitably being burned.
Well, that's exactly what happened on Spencer Street just over 2 weeks ago. But what was interesting, okay, so 77% say it should be against the law. 76% of young Australians agree. So it's consistent with the other ages. But how about this? 63% of people say you should go to jail if you burn the flag.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is really, I think, demonstrating a line in the sand moment for our country. And, what's interesting is I wouldn't have agreed with these sentiments 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but a lot has changed in the intervening period. I think we're more divided than we have been since World War II.
I would agree.
And there's always been people who would do this, and it used to be sort of the purple-haired weirdo on a university campus doing it for attention, and they could be ignored. But there's a real aggressive nature to this now, and I think a lot of Australians are feeling quite alienated from their own country, and so that's what's driving these results.
Well, because there's other things too. There's a shadowy group that has been smashing into, I believe, toll holdings offices. They're a pro-Palestinian group. And they graffiti things like death to America and death to Australia. Like they really, don't like this country at all.
Well, that's right. I mean, this is one of the issues that we have is there's a minority, but it is a growing minority and a very vocal minority who are hostile to not just our flag, but to the Australian way of life itself. And I've heard some people say, who cares about the flag? It's just, a piece of fabric with colours on it. But, it's much more than that. It's a symbol of our shared values of freedom, democracy, egalitarianism. These are things that we can all share as Australians. It's the flag under which, tens of thousands of servicemen and women have fought and died under. So it's much more than just sort of fabric on cloth. And I also think, relatedly, this is why a lot of Australians get frustrated when our Prime Minister won't stand in front of the flag in and on its own terms. Will only stand in front of it with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags as well.
Yeah. And what about, do you think the educational system is partly to blame here? Because I've seen what is taught in schools, being a parent of a school-aged child. And there's a lot of, Australia is racist, Australia is a settler, colonialist society, Australia is, founded on dispossession. It seems to me if you're going to teach those sort of sentiments, it's perhaps no surprise that school kids grow up into young adults who think, the flag doesn't mean anything, let's burn it.
Yeah, that's right. Sadly, that is correct. And, the real saddening part about this is a lot of young people are taught to be ashamed of their country and therefore ashamed of themselves. There's a kind of self-hate that develops from it. And I'm not saying we're without fault as a country, but we are without peer. And if sort of youngsters coming through the education system aren't taught about all of the great things of our country, then it's really setting them back in life. And I don't blame them for their views. I think that they're victims of a very broken education system.
All right, thank you for your time. I like that phrase. We are not without fault, or Australia is not without fault, but it is without peers. So our country is not perfect, but it is better than all the others.